Hello and a warm welcome to the Entrepreneurial Edge. I'm Natasha Jacobs. Now, the accounting, tax and advisory industry in South Africa is a competitive one. Not only do we have the traditional Big Four, we also have an array of smaller yet established firms. This, however, did not deter our guest this evening, Lindani Dhlamini, to establish a new player in the market, which recently merged with another industry counterpart to form what is now regarded as the second largest black-owned accounting firms in the country, SekelaXabiso. Before I chat to Lindani, let's find out more about her company.
Before establishing Xabiso, Lindani Dhlamini worked in the corporate finance division of Deloitte, focusing on transaction support services. In 2003, she co-founded Xabiso Chartered Accountants. The company started out with just 2 people and had grown to a workforce of almost 100 people by 2011. Earlier this month saw a merger between Xabiso Chartered Accountants and Sekela Consulting to form SekelaXabiso, which is now one of the country's largest accounting and auditing firms.
The merger between Xabiso and Sekela became effective the 1st of September, and we believe that it's a merger of 2 equals, in the sense that the 2 companies are very similar in profile, in size, in client profile, the staff profile as well, also in terms of vision. We will have a staff complement of approximately 300 people, turnover of just over 200 million, and we have the intention of increasing that to 1 billion by 2020.
The organization has a staff complement of approximately 300 people. SekelaXabiso is fully BEE compliant and gender empowered.
We are, to a large extent, currently where we are because of government's policies around BEE transformation and gender empowerment. And I think the fact that as Xabiso we have been a female-owned and female and black-managed organization, and Sekela has been a black-owned and managed organization, it has been easy for us to access government clients and government contracts. So BEE has been very important, but also important for us in the sense that in our quest for our own success, we also contribute towards the communities that we come from in regard to employment that we provide to previously disadvantaged individuals, as well as in terms of our CSI initiatives. You will see that we support learners from as far back as high school. We contribute to SAICA's Tutuga bursary scheme, which also helps previously disadvantaged CA candidates. And we've got a whole lot of other projects that support our communities. So we also, do give back.
Currently, SekelaXabiso has a footprint in 4 of South Africa's provinces. These include Nelspruit, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal and Rustenburg in the Northwest Province.
We are intending to expand into the rest of the country as well as the rest of Africa, and in the long term globally as well. We will follow opportunities wherever they present themselves.
With me in studio this evening is the woman behind SekelaXabiso, CEO Lindani Dhlamini. Lindani, welcome. Now, before we get into the history of Xabiso and now SekelaXabiso, let's go back to those early days. You actually studied a BSc in computer science first.
Yes, I did, Natasha, and that was purely because of lack of career guidance. When I got to matric, being one of the top students, I had 3 options back then. I was either going to become a doctor, a lawyer, or something else.
The traditional route.
The traditional route. I was very confident that I was going to get into medicine, and I was very determined to go and study at the University of Cape Town. So I only applied to 1 university, had my first choice as medicine, and then obviously when you apply to universities you have to choose 3 other options. Mm-hmm. So I said many more. I ended up with the second choice as BSc Computer Science, and I can't recall what my third choice was. Lo and behold, I didn't get into medicine at UCT, so I ended up doing BSc Computer Science.
Was it actually something that you enjoyed doing at university?
Well, once I started it, and I suppose it's just my character, once I started it, I actually quite enjoyed it. And I told myself that, you know, I've started it, I'm going to finish it.
Now, you finished your degree and then you went on to actually go study accounting. When did that shift come from crunching keyboards to essentially crunching numbers?
Well, it actually came at my very first job. I did the BSc. I had very high expectations for a newly graduate. I went environment. I was very young, and I think it was a culture shock to see where I fitted in that environment. This was way back in the early 90s, and in Cape Town. And needless to say, I was at the bottom of the ladder, totally at the bottom of the ladder, and I was shocked. And the guy who seemed to be at the top of the ladder was a CA. This was our boss in our division. And I think I was ambitious even big then. I wanted to be like that guy. So I went to him and I said, please tell me how you got to this position. Because from where I'm sitting, I can see it's going to take me many years to get where you are. And that's when the shift happened.
And any pressure from your family? I know just from my perspective, my parents were quite upset after I spent 4 years at varsity studying one course and then became a journalist. Was there support for you to do that shift from, you know, you just studied for 4 years to now potentially study for 6, 7 to become a CA?
That's right. Fortunately, I was the last born child at home, so I was quite indulged. So when I went back to my parents and I said, you know, I think I've chosen the wrong career, I need to make a career change, there was a lot of support because there were no other siblings that needed to be put through school. I don't think they might have been as accepting if I had been the firstborn. So they were quite accommodating and they encouraged me to pursue my dream.
So you studied, then you did your articles at the then Deloitte and Touche.
That's right.
Successful stint in the corporate finance division.
Yes.
You could have had a very successful career and built yourself up to partner within the company. Why not the decision to stay with the company?
Deloitte was a fantastic organization. I got a lot of grounding, and I do believe I'm where I am because of the training that I got from Deloitte. But I've always had big dreams. And I've always wanted to make a significant contribution and a meaningful contribution. The challenge with organizations that are 100 years old is pretty much everything. They've tried and tested everything. And you kind of have to find your space in there and fit in. So for me, it was an opportunity to do something big and to do something different and to have a meaningful impact. Hence I decided to start Xabiso.
Did you ever see yourself as an entrepreneur?
I think so. I think I grew up in an entrepreneurial environment. Both my parents were ex-teachers, but when we were growing up, there was always something. My mom was always selling something or encouraging us to do doilies so that we could sell and make pocket money. So the entrepreneurial bug bit quite early on in my life. And I just knew that at some point in my life, I would be running my own organization or business.
So destined for something else.
Yes.
Now let's take a look at the formation of Xabiso. Startup capital for any business is usually the Achilles heel. Where did the funding for those early days come from?
We were very fortunate when we started in 2003. There was an organization called Umsobomvu Youth Fund. I think it's now called something else. But back then, I think they still had the funds that they had received from the demutualization of some of the big insurance companies. So we went to them with this big dream. It was two ladies that we wanted to start this thing.
And your partner came from Deloitte like yourself?
Yes, she came from Deloitte like myself. And we said, we want to start this thing, can you assist us? And they were very supportive. Certainly they were supportive in starting up the organization. They were also supportive as we were growing the organization and our financial needs were expanding.
Let's talk about growing. You started with 2, yourself and your partner, quickly grow to 60 employees. What were those early days like? What were some of the toughest challenges you had to face? Because seemingly the capital came quite easy. Yes.
Well, I don't know whether it came easy or we're just good at hassling. Our profession is a skills-based profession, and it's a highly technical profession. And we compete with the well-established organizations, obviously with very deep pockets. So one of the biggest challenges that we had in the early days is actually attracting the right kind of candidates to join our organization. But I think we realized pretty early on that when people make when people make career decisions, money can only take you so far. At a certain level, people want to find an environment where they feel they belong, where they feel they can contribute, and where they feel they can contribute to something bigger than themselves. So once we started, well, you obviously have to pay market-related salaries,
Yes.
but once we started focusing less on the financial package that we were giving people, rather focusing on what we were giving them in terms of the environment and what they could achieve and what they could contribute, we saw that the challenge kind of went by the wayside. We were attracting the right kind of people to our organization that enabled us to grow the organization.
Now, you spoke about skills.
Yes.
In South Africa, estimated 30,000 chartered accountants,
Yes.
only almost 1,500 black,
Yes.
and just over 300 women.
Yes.
Certainly not a big pool to search from when you're building up an organization such as yourself. What are you doing for that skills deficit?
Well, there's a number of initiatives. It really is a challenge, particularly, I mean, our profession still remains very much exclusive to the traditional white male. So as an organization, we realize that, you know, you need to be very innovative in the kind of things that you do to be able to contribute to bringing black people into the profession. For instance, one of the initiatives that we've been running for a number of years, and unfortunately it takes very long to train a CA.
Yes.
So one of the initiatives that we've been running for a couple of years is we went back to our schools. We adopt learners from grade 10.
So starting from the ground, building up.
Yes, because the reality is, as early as grade 10, this profession can be closed to a child, because depending on the kind of subjects they select in their grade 10, if they don't select mathematics, for instance, they cannot pursue this career. So we went back to our schools and we adopt learners as early as grade 10. We take them through a school, and when they get to matric, we facilitate them getting bursaries and we facilitate them getting into university. And I'm proud to say that the very first batch that we started with close to 7 years ago is, I think they're doing their final year. 3 of them are doing their final year at UCT, wanting to become chartered accountants, wanting very much to come and join SekelaXabiso now. So it's a long-term investment. Internally, we encourage our people to further their studies. We support them financially, where we give bursaries to our people who want to further their studies. And we support them in other means as well, where we have extra lessons for them, and we have our staff that is already qualified being mentors to them.
Well, Lindani, after the break, we'll chat more about the type of environment that you foster at SekelaXabiso.